Hello and welcome to Console Cowboys. So in the last video, we took a look at a vulnerable contract and the lack of authentication and authorization and how we could directly call those to use the functionality regardless of whether a UI prevented it. But how do we actually do that with a contract we don't have in Remix? That's where Web3 comes in. So we're going to take a look at Web3 and how to interact with a contract from the Web3 console in this video. First, we're going to talk about what ABI files are, as we'll need an ABI file to interact with the smart contract. So in order to show that outside of Remix and outside of what we wrote, and really more of an on-chain thing, let's take a look at etherscan.io. I have it open up in my web browser. So open it up in your web browser and follow along, and we'll look at how to look for a project and then find an ABI file, and then what's in that ABI file before we interact with our own contract using the ABI file from Remix. So let's look up a project, for example, Chainlink. We'll start typing in chain, and it'll pop up. We can click that, and then within this page, you're gonna see where it says contract right here. If we click that, and we scroll down, you're gonna see a contract tab. So click the contract tab, and we have the source code here. And if we scroll down a little more, we have the ABI file. And the ABI file is what we need in order to interact with this particular contract using Web3. So what we can do is click this button right here to copy it to our clipboard. Now let's take a look at what's in there. So if I open up an editor and I copy paste it in here, the format's all screwed up. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to toggle word wrap. And then we're going to change this to JSON so that way we get some coloring in here. And then next thing we're going to do is install a plugin. So we'll go to extensions. I already have this installed, but type in Prettify JSON. Click that and hit install. Once that's installed, what we can do is go back into our editor. And we're going to type F1. And we're going to start typing Prettify JSON. It should pop up, and then immediately you're going to see a much better formatted code in order to view what's going on here, which is the definitions of the functions and the variables from the smart contract that our Web3 can understand, so we can start making calls to the contract. So if we hop back into the source code and we click here and hit Control F and search for function, I don't really care about a multiply function. Let's look for something involving the contract. So I'm going to hit the up arrow. Okay, we see a transfer from. We see that it takes a few parameters. So it takes an underscore from, an underscore to, an underscore value. And it also returns a bool. So if we search for this within our ABI file, and hit Control F, paste this in here. So here's our transfer from function. And indeed, we can see that it takes a underscore from, underscore to, and a value. And if we go down here, it outputs a bool. So basically, it's a description of our source code that Web3 can understand so we can make our calls. So how do we use this? Well, we can use a Web3 console to make calls with this. So let's take a look at our previous example with no authentication, and let's make some calls to that via a local blockchain that we set up through Remix using the Web3 console. So if we go back to our editor here from last week, and we see our code here, right? We have our kill function, withdraw function, deposit function. Head over to the compiler tab and hit compile. After you do that, you'll see down here in ABI. So if you click that, it'll copy that to the clipboard. We'll head back to our editor and we'll make a new file. I'll paste that in here and we'll see we have a deposit function, it's payable, we have a kill, and we have a withdraw. So that's our ABI file, and we're going to use that to make calls. So now let's set up a local blockchain. So we can easily do that with Ganache. If you're not coming from the course with a pre-configured VM and you don't have Ganache, it's pretty easy to install. So you just do a sudo apt install Node.js, let that install, and then do a sudo apt install npm. And then you'll have the npm package manager, And all you really need to do at that point is do sudo npm install -g for global Ganache CLI. And then you'll have a local blockchain that you can use with Remix. So once that's installed, just type in Ganache CLI, and you'll see a bunch of text scroll through. And what you have here is you have your private keys, your available accounts with 100 Ether in each one. So in order to connect this to Remix, we have our address right here, which is the local host 127.0.0.1 with port 8545. So let's go back into Remix, and we can go to the Deploy tab, and instead of using JavaScript VM, which works completely within the browser, we're going to select Web3 provider, because our Web3 provider is going to be Ganache. It should pre-fill with the correct address, which is this 127.0.0.1 If it doesn't, just change it and then hit OK. And what's going to happen is you're going to get all these accounts pre-filled in here, but this time it's from Ganache. So if you deploy something, see it just changed there, so it just flipped to Ganache. And then when we deploy, you'll see a bunch of stuff scrolled back here. And if we go up, we see contract created. So now we're working out of Ganache instead of within the browser's blockchain. And we can do stuff like interact with it with the Web3 console. So let's see how to do that next. So we're going to open up a tab. And we're going to install Web3 with npm install Web3. I already have that installed, so I'm not going to run that, but that should run through, and then you can open up Node and import that. So after I type in Node, there's quite a bit of setup in order to be able to interact with this contract, so I'm going to copy paste some stuff in and then explain what it is. Otherwise, you're just going to watch me make a whole bunch of mistakes typing things in. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying a constant variable named Web3 will require that we can import Web3. So we would have got an error here if we didn't actually have Web3 installed. Then we're going to create a URL, and the URL is going to equal our local blockchain that we're connecting to. So if you remember that 127.0.0.1 well, localhost is the same thing as 127.0.0.1. So that's going to be a constant variable. And then we're going to create another variable with a lowercase Web3 and make that equal to Web3 using that URL. So that's just the setup with our connection to the blockchain using Web3. Then next up, what we need to do is we need to create the account that we're going to use. So I'm going to hit enter here, and then I'm going to paste in some more stuff. And what I did was I created an accounts, and the accounts is equal to getting all of the accounts from this URL up here and our local blockchain. And then once I did that, I created a account variable to hold one specific account, and I parsed out accounts, and I made account equal to v1, right? So if you're in computer science, everything starts with counting with 0. So 0, 1, that would be the second account within here. So this would be this account, right? And then now what we're going to do is we're going to set up our ABI file so we know how to interact with this contract, and we're going to hook that up to the address in the blockchain. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say const address equals, and we're going to put some quotes here, and we need the contract address. So we're going to go into Remix, and we're going to click next to the contract and get the address. And we're going to paste that in here. So that should be the address. And then we're going to paste in the ABI file. So we're going to say const ABI equals, and we don't need any quotes on this, but we do need the ABI file. So we'll go back to our compiler tab. We'll click ABI, and we will paste that here. So we'll say paste. We'll hit enter, and now we have a variable for our address and our ABI, and we're going to connect those together in order to have a contract interface so that we can interact with this contract. So let's do that. Say const contract equals new web3.eth.contract, and we're going to put in our ABI and our address. And after we do this, we should be able to interact with this contract directly and have no more setup stuff and actually perform our attacks. But before we do that, let's do a little bit of setup. Remember, we are using our second account for this attack. And what we're going to want to do is in the first account, add a little bit of ether that we can steal. So we have our first account selected, and we're going to put in 10 ether, and we're going to deposit that. And now the first account has 10 ether in it, and we have 89. But our second account, which is the account that the attacker is using, has 100 in there, but it has nothing in the account. So what we're going to try to do is steal the 10 ether that the first account put in by using that withdraw function. And we're going to do that direct on the Web3 console. So let's hop back to our console, and we'll hit enter on this. So now we have the contract variable to interface with the address and the ABI. And what we're going to do is call the withdraw function. And we can do that like this. So we're going to say our contract that we created .methods.withdraw. So we're going to call this withdraw from the ABI file using the address from this contract. And we're going to send in 1 with 19 zeros. So we have 1 to the 18th power, but it's 10, so it's an extra 0, 19 zeros. And we're going to send that along with the gas, and we're using the same gas value that's Remix is using, so that way we know it's correct. And we're going to then say use our account. And if you remember, we parsed out our account variable as the second account in this list of accounts. So this account that actually has 100 ether in it right now, we'll flip to that so we can take a look at it while we're performing the attack, should end up with 10 Ethereum as we withdraw the 10 Ethereum that the first account put in. So we'll hit enter, and we see a promise come back from JavaScript. And if we check our account over here, it updated to 109,994. So it's 10 Ethereum added to our account minus the gas fees. So we can call this directly from the console, even if that withdraw function wasn't in our UI because we didn't have an account, or if the server code where the web application or the mobile application was interacting with stopped us, we could just directly call the contract in order to exploit this issue with Web3. Now, the second thing was we have a kill function, right? So if we run a kill function, we'll basically destroy this whole contract and steal all the Ethereum out of it. So let's go back to our first account again, and let's put in some more Ethereum. So we'll say 20 Ethereum, and we're going to deposit. So now there's an extra 20 Ethereum in this account. And then let's go back and take a look at our second account here so we can view the attack. And back in the terminal here, we're going to run our attack with kill. So we can do that with this. So we're going to call contract methods.kill. We're going to send our gas, and we're sending from our account, which is our second account. And if you remember, the self-destruct takes the account that you're sending from and sends you all the Ethereum. So technically, we should end up with roughly 129 Ethereum in our attacker account, and this particular contract will no longer function. So let's give that a try. And if we check our account, we now updated to 129, and this smart contract is now self-destructed and no longer usable. So hopefully you learned something from this video, and now you can interact with smart contracts using Web3. The syntax can get a little crazy sometimes because there's differences in ABI files versus old and new, and also updates to Web3 recently changed the syntax a bit, and also JavaScript's a little crazy, but it's not really that hard once you get used to the syntax. Hopefully this video was beneficial and you learned something. If you did, hit the like button and share it with your friends, and we'll see you in the next video where we look at different aspects of authorization.